Hello again. Chris Lee and Chase Robinson set to preview the big game Saturday between Georgia going to Ole Miss. 2:30 Central. You can catch that on ABC or ESPN Plus. Georgia a 3-point favorite as we do this on Monday morning with an over-under of 54.5 for an implied final score. Georgia 29, Ole Miss 26. My composite model actually has Ole Miss by 2. Very interesting game here. Ole Miss looked the best it has looked all season in a waxing of Arkansas in Fayetteville. Meanwhile, Georgia had an interesting game against Florida, which it won, but not after DJ Lagway got hurt with Florida ahead. Chase, all kinds of things signaling different things in this game. I don't know what to make of it, but I sure am looking forward to previewing it.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun one. I'm excited to sit down and watch this one Saturday because I feel like Ole Miss remembers what happened last year when Georgia just embarrassed them. And they're going to remember that going into this game. And I feel like Ole Miss is playing really good right now, especially offensively. Some guys stepping up. Georgia, the turnovers have been a problem, but this is still an excellent Georgia football team that can make a deep run. So, look, this is two really good football teams and two good coaches who are meeting Saturday afternoon.
Let's look at the matchups. I'll have you flip the card for the first one up on the screen here. And I really don't know if these numbers are completely relevant or completely irrelevant, but we're going to unpack them nonetheless. Georgia's offense has just kind of been okay, although against a tough schedule. Ole Miss's defense has been elite. I think, the sack percentage here really stands out for Ole Miss. If you're watching this on YouTube, the Rebels get to the passer a lot. Georgia doesn't give up a lot of sacks. And, oh, by the way, Tate Ratledge back now. That's a big thing. They haven't had him much of the year. Georgia's a little turnover prone. Carson Beck's been throwing a lot of picks lately. Ole Miss, between that pass rush and some guys on the back end who can pick it off, been pretty good at creating turnovers. Ole Miss's rushing defense has been just really stout all year.
They have
3.5 yards a carry adjusted for sacks. I don't know what's relevant and what's not here in this matchup.
The pass rush is relevant for Ole Miss. The amount of pressure that they're able to put on the opposing quarterbacks, and you see the sack numbers there. I think that's huge going into this game. And you mentioned Tate Ratledge is back for Georgia. I think that's really big, but I really like the defensive front for Ole Miss, the pressure that they're able to put. And you know what? I think Ole Miss has a chance to put Carson Beck in some situations to turn the ball over again in this game because of the pressure they could put. So this is a very interesting side of the matchup to me. And usually when you think of an Ole Miss team, it's offense, and they have a great offense, but I really do like their defense, and I think they can do some good things against Georgia.
Yeah, I think a key for Georgia here will be establishing Etienne. Again, that's been really tough to do against Walter Nolan in the front of that defense. But some of Ole Miss's numbers, too, have been, and you'll see this certainly on offense, inflated by a schedule, which has not exactly been challenging compared to what Georgia has faced. But, Ole Miss at the same time, and also had some trouble with Arkansas, although that I think was a little bit more of a game flow situation. But I think, to me, just a lot of the uncertainty on what has Georgia got with Carson Beck, I think feels like he's due to play better, but the stats are what they are. 3 picks or 3 games, 8 picks of late.
Yeah, and, going back to Etienne, I think he'll be very important in this game as well, and he had the little injury, but Kirby Smart's very optimistic that he will be on the field against Ole Miss, so I think that's very good for Georgia in getting the run game established.
All right, let's flip over to the other side of the matchup and look at Ole Miss's offense versus Georgia defense. Before we do that, we remind you, BetOnline is your world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to live in-game betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch games as they begin with the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, NHL to entertainment and political props. Head to BetOnline today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. Okay, as I mentioned, a lot of Ole Miss's stats were inflated by an easy schedule in September, and then came conference play, and Ole Miss looked a lot more normal.
Yep.
Then the Rebels were without Tre Harris, who has got a case of SEC Offensive Player of the Year for that Arkansas game. So what happens? Ole Miss has its best offensive performance of the year. Jordan Watkins goes off. They discover tight ends that hadn't been used all year. Now, Ole Miss is banged up with Henry Parrish. I don't know what his status is going to be, and the offensive line has been banged up too. Georgia, meanwhile, we know about the defense Kirby Smart puts together. I don't know that it's one of his elite defenses, but it's a darn good one. And I think the interesting thing here will be Georgia's pass rush against a line that has struggled against better teams at times.
Yeah, you're right. And look, Georgia defensively, you mentioned it, is not one of Kirby Smart's best. They're still good. I think there's some holes in the secondary, and I think that's where Ole Miss can cause some trouble for Georgia because Jaxson Dart can throw the ball so well because he does have multiple weapons that can get into that second level. And so I think that's where Ole Miss could do some damage, but still, I think this is a very good, sound Georgia defense that even if they are to get some big plays, I think Georgia can still do their job of stopping them, in the drive. And so I think this will be an interesting side of the matchup as well. And we know this is going to be a great game looking at the numbers and what we've seen. But I do think Ole Miss can get some big plays on this Georgia defense.
All right, let's get into picks and why. And Chase, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I've gone back and forth on this one. I think it's going to be a terrific college football game. What it would surprise me none if Ole Miss won this game, but traditionally Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin have not been able to win these big games. That in that case, I'm going to go with Georgia. I feel like Georgia is playing good. I feel like they can overcome some of the issues that we may have seen against Florida and some of these other games. And so I'm gonna ride with Georgia Bulldogs here. Again, wouldn't shock me though if it went the other way.
I said to lead this off that I don't know whether to trust the numbers or not. Because the numbers that I've got, the model I've got actually has Ole Miss being a small favorite again, according to some predictive models that are usually pretty good. But to me, Ole Miss just has not been consistent against good teams. Georgia's schedule on average, according to Jeff Sagarin, its opponent week in, week out has been about 6.5 to 7 points better than what Ole Miss has faced. I think there's some noise in the number. And I think the further we go, I think I'm more convinced by what my eyes and my gut tell me than I am the numbers on paper. And again, the numbers on paper, if Ole Miss wins this game, I think they will have told you why. But I just feel like this is the kind of game that Lane Kiffin comes up time and time again against. It just doesn't win. Now, there's a first time for everything, and the way that they played against Arkansas opened my eyes. But on the other hand, we have Kirby Smart, who almost always wins this game unless Alabama is the guy on the other side of the line. So with that, I'm going to lean on history and a gut feeling and take Georgia. But, hey, it's in Oxford. You might have seen the start of something with Ole Miss last week playing with its season on the line, because another loss, you could forget the playoffs.
Yep.
And even with the win, it's not a guarantee. But I don't know what to think. Degree of confidence on a scale of 1 to 10 is about a 2. But I'm going to lean on gut feeling and go with Georgia. Either way, we will wrap this up on Sunday night. We do baseball, football, basketball content year-round. Best way to get that, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and tell a friend about our channel. If you want to advertise, Caroline.Smith@southeastern14.com will get it there. We reach millions of people a year. For Chase Robinson, I'm Chris Lee. You've been watching Southeastern 16, presented by BetOnline.